this. Okay, here we go. All right. What's going on, guys? Boy, be Spellman, and this is an independent POV podcast. I've been ready for Congress. What's going on?
Hey, Byron, how are you? Hey, everybody. Oh, we're breaking up again.
Good. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Byron, you're breaking up like crazy. I gotta, maybe if I turn off the video or something. Oh, I'm sorry.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you're breaking up real bad, man. I can't even understand. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do.
Really?
If we turn our videos off, will it not break up on us?
Sure, we can do that. Are you hearing me?
I can. I do hear you. I just, man, once we start talking, it just breaks up like crazy, and I only get about every other word.
Yeah. I feel like we got our connection now. It's like, since we're like this.
I actually don't know what you just said. I heard you talking, and the only word I made out was this. I don't know what to do.
This is where I got a whole everything.
Let me see. I'm like trying to eliminate as many. I pulled my headphones out. Maybe the headphones are bad.
Is this better?
I don't know. When you only say a word or two, it usually comes through. But once you start talking, the connection's real bad.
Is this better?
No, because right in the middle of saying better, it skipped. So before we went live, your video was freezing like crazy. So I think there's something wrong on your end. I don't know if it's with the internet or whatever, but
yeah. All right, now that's kind of clearing up.
If I can't hear a full sentence you make, though, man, I'm not going to be able to answer your questions. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do.
How about everything's clearing up?
I mean, that sounded very bad, but I at least heard every word that you said.
Okay. Jeez. Come on, internet.
Yeah, it just seems like we have a really bad connection. Like you're out in the middle of nowhere and have one bar. That's what it's looking like.
Really? Because on my side, it's got full green bars on both you and me.
That's really weird. Okay, well, that was the first time you said a whole sentence and it all came through. Maybe we can. Maybe
really.
we can give it a shot, man. I just make no promises.
Okay. My goodness. All right, we're gonna make do right here.
All right, we're gonna figure it out.
Well, yeah. Well, Erica, please give me a brief about yourself and running for Congress.
You got it. So, born and raised in Vermont, in a small town called Milton. And I get picked on because I actually pronounce Milton correctly. Up here in Vermont, we don't like to pronounce our T's, and we add R's where they don't belong. So, like Vermont, Milton. Okay. So it's spelled Milton, right? That's the joke. But really, really grateful that I got to grow up in a small town, real safe, but with parents who knew enough to teach us that there was a much bigger world out there. My dad was in the Air Force. Both sides of my family come from military background, so we got exposed to a lot of different things, people, ideas when we were kids, and one of those things that I remember very early on, I remember sitting in my dad's lap when I was a little girl watching the news. We'd sit there and we'd watch Dan Rather and Peter Jennings and all that kind of stuff. And it was, back then it was the Iran Contra affair and Ronald Reagan was the president. And I just remember saying to my dad, it seems like these people are really terrible at their job. They're doing a really, really bad job. I think I could do better. And he was like, "You totally could, Erica." and I think I still think I'm right today. 40, 30 some odd years later, we're looking at Washington. We're seeing record high inflation, record gas prices, baby formula shortages, and saying that it's okay to give hormones and chop off sex organs of children. Like, you're just going, wait a second, what is happening right now? Okay. I grew up, where everybody got to be whoever they wanted and, inclusive and loving and accepting. But like, now you're trying to do surgery on children who are not old enough to consent. I don't think you can, that's not cool. And so I just, when I moved back to Vermont in 2018, I had moved to Texas. That's where I met my husband, who's a Texan, and got to really see the difference in governance. And then we moved out to Hollywood for a couple of years and saw how crazy California was. And all of their attempts to be inclusive basically just actually made everything worse, made people less safe. They had less resources to actually help the needy. And when I moved back to Vermont in 2018, I saw my home state making the same mistakes that California did. And I just said, I can't stay silent anymore. I have to do something. And so I started getting involved in politics in 2018 here and just standing up for common sense values and math and reason and logic. And then last year, Patrick Leahy, who has held office for 48 years, announced that he was retiring. And so there was a big shakeup here in Vermont in our federal seats. We have one House seat, one House of Representatives seat, and obviously the two Senate seats. And one of the Senate seats and the House seat are both open this year with no incumbents running. And so we just said, you know what? Nobody believes that we can win this seat, but I do. And so we're going to go for it because we need to restore accountability, transparency, and integrity back to Washington. And I'm the only one in the race that is committed to doing that.
Okay. Were you running as a Republican first?
I was. So I have worked I've worked a lot with both the Republican and Libertarian parties here in Vermont the last few years, basically just building the parties, building the coalitions, getting all the folks around the state who are liberty minded together and focused on getting moderates and conservatives elected to office. So I ran in the Republican primary. And I had also received the nomination of the Libertarian Party. So the major parties in Vermont have primaries, and then the minor parties have endorsing or nominating conventions. So the Libertarian Party is a minor party. I was nominated as their congressional candidate in their nominating convention and officially put on the ballot on August 4th. Then the major party primaries were held August 9th. And in very progressive Vermont, or what people think is very progressive Vermont, a progressive won the Republican primary. So on the ballot this year is going to be me, yours truly, Erica Reddick for Congress as a Libertarian. And then there are two progressives on the ballot, one with a D behind her name and the other with an R behind his name. Neither of whom are actually what party affiliation they say they are.
Okay.
Yes.
So as the title, as you can see, is there room for a third party?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the thing that I've been saying for a few years now. You know, the Democrats and Republicans, to a lot of folks, including me, oftentimes the labels don't even mean anything anymore because have you heard, Byron? Have you heard the term Uniparty? The Uniparty, basically, Democrats and Republicans are the Uniparty. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay. So the idea is that basically Republicans and Democrats in Washington, particularly, are all the same. They want the same things. They're big government bureaucrats. They're statists who believe that they have all the right to your hard earned labor, your stuff, and that they get to tell you what to do. That they actually are the arbiters of constitutional rights rather than the protectors of them. And so there's a lot of people who are really unhappy with the two-party system and don't feel like it represents them. And to me, the Libertarian Party is really, it's kind of a, it's like, it is the big tent party. The Libertarian Party is the big tent party. So many folks that I have met at Libertarian Party meetings and events and things like that, they are a wide spectrum, you know, pro-choice, pro-life, free market capitalists. I don't know how you can be a socialist and be a libertarian, but that's a conversation for another day. You know, so you have this wide range of beliefs in the Libertarian Party, but by and large, what they agree on is that the government is too big, that the government has too much power, and they shouldn't have so much say over your life. And so I think a lot of people can really get behind that, you know, that you have autonomy over your own body. The government does not get to tell you that you have to take medications or, you know, any of those things, that you have the right to do business and associate with whoever you choose, and all of those things. So to me, the Libertarian Party is the party that everyone who feels disaffected by their previous affiliation should be looking to. You know, if you're a Democrat and you're saying, "Oh my God, the Dems have gone too far left. They want to defund the police and trans your kids." Okay, no, we're not for that stuff anymore. I'm not a Democrat, which I hear from a lot of those folks. I've heard from a ton of those folks in the race. And then, you know, if you're on the Republican side and you're like, "Oh my God, this, you know, we're way too populist now. And oh my God, this is, you know, the rhetoric is crazy. And we need to make sure we're doing, you know," everybody, I think, feels, let me rephrase that. A lot of people feel left out of the electoral process right now. And they're looking for a home. They're looking for sanity. They're looking for reason and logic. And I think that particularly here in Vermont, the Libertarian Party can offer that solution.
Okay. As you know, that Democrats in New York are claiming they care elections. What are your thoughts on that?
Did you say Democrats in New York say they care about fair elections?
Yeah, I mean, I heard about Democrats block third party candidates from ballot while claiming they care about fair elections. This is
Okay.
happened in New York City.
Okay. So you're still breaking up a little bit, Byron. That's why I feel like I'm still missing words. Did you say the Democrats tried to block a third party candidate from the ballot?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, no, they don't care about democracy. Oh yeah, no. Let's be really, really clear. The same folks who say they care about democracy, quote unquote, are the same ones who are systematically tearing down the institutions that protect it. So you can't say that you care about free and fair elections, and you can't say that you care about democracy, and then say that it's okay for Joe Biden to write a bunch of executive orders, which is, a complete betrayal of the separation of powers.
Crazy.
You can't say, can't say, oh, we need to get money out of politics. It's so bad. Oh, it's terrible. And then take all of the endorsements from every single person who sent you a letter offering one when you're actually basically promising them money. This was one of the things, I'll tell you, Byron, that was one of the most shocking things or most eye-opening in campaigning. Every other day, especially at the beginning of the campaign, I was getting an endorsement request or an endorsement offer. So whether it was, the Firefighters Association or the National Association of Realtors, I was getting all these questionnaires. And the one that sticks out in my mind the most, Byron, is the National Realtors Association, because it was like 18 pages long. And it was all these bills. Will you vote for these bills? And if you say yes, you'll vote for these bills, then we'll endorse you. And each one of those bills, while not explicitly saying it, was a question of in what ways will you infringe on Americans' constitutional rights on our behalf? And how much money will you take out of the pockets of American citizens to give to us and our people? And I just remember reading all of these and thinking, this is the money in politics. It's not just the PAC money. It's not just all the dollar donations. You're literally asked to pledge fealty essentially to all of these organizations. And that's how all the pork ends up in bills, right? Like, oh, we just passed 1,000-page spending package and nobody knows what's in it. And then you read it and it's $250 million for, some stupid project for the National Realtors Association. And I just go, this is the money in politics. If you give us other people's stuff, we'll offer you money and power and influence. And I just think that's wrong. So and the Democrats especially, you're probably, I know you're more independent, you're not real. I don't think you really have a side necessarily. But I just think, like, my Democrat challenger said she wasn't going to take PAC money. And then PACs spent $2 million on ad campaigns for her primary. And so you go, okay, but you don't live up to the values that you say you live up to. And then you say that I should trust you with our democracy. I don't, nope. I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I don't believe you anymore.
Wow.
And actually, that now that I'm thinking about it more directly to your question, actually, is they don't want their ideas challenged. They don't want a Libertarian Party candidate. They don't want an actual independent candidate, because that is a challenge to their power and their control over politics. And so they're going to try their best to push any real grassroots candidates out of an election.
Okay. Wow. I think that's crazy, and it was libertarian. Just to let you know, it was libertarians. They were trying to being and this is they're being the governor of New York.
Oh, well, how dare you get in the way of Miss Kathy Hochul, the unelected governor who doesn't care about anybody. And I love it. She's been all about defunding the police and lockdowns and masks and the whole like mandates and everything. And then one video goes viral of a man getting bludgeoned to death by a repeat violent criminal. And now she's like, oh, we got to arrest him. We got to take control of our city. And I'm like, says the lady who emptied the prisons and supports letting violent criminals out of jail. Oh my God. But I think she's running for office this year. So now she's got to look tough on crime and try to, do something. Like, you're so full of it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely full of it.
Yeah. To me, I think New York is literally what's that country? Like it's like a third country right now. That's what New York is, right?
Well, for all the folks
really
out that's kind of how we're supposed to be, Byron, to be honest with you. Each of the 50 states is really supposed to be its own little country, if you will, its own sovereign entity. And what has happened over the years is the federalist system has just been eroded, right? So what federalism means, it's like the collection of states, right? Each state is supposed to have its own independent government, take care of 99% of the issues, whether it's social welfare or crime, police, like whatever it is. Pretty much all of the decisions are supposed to be made on the state level by people within the state. And we've given away so much of our power to the federal government and said, oh no, federal government, please tell all of us how we should behave and what we should do according to your will, oh Father, federal government. And that's not how it's supposed to be. It really is supposed to. If New York wants to do dumb stuff and be poor and crime ridden, well, then they get to do that technically. And Vermont gets to do the same thing. Georgia gets to do the same thing. That's why you see such a disparity between economies of states. Florida, Texas, some of the southern states that didn't lock down, South Dakota, places where they kept their economy open through COVID and let people go to work and trusted their citizens to make their own decisions, are doing much better than states like Vermont and New York that had severe lockdowns, made dumb decisions like letting all the violent criminals out of jail and closing businesses. So I think New York is a great example of what not to do. And so maybe sometimes it's good to have those examples.
I mean, we already got a country called Venezuela just rolling to the ground already. Like,
say that again.
I said we already got Venezuela that's pretty much a socialist country as it is now.
Yeah.
So
yep.
If that's not an indicator that socialism doesn't work, it doesn't work.
But we're different. I'm different. I'm special. I'm somehow immune from human nature. That's the thing that's so crazy when I hear people say, oh, well, that's not how it's supposed to be, or it's supposed to be like this or whatever. I go, why do you think that you're different? Why? What makes you believe that somehow you will not react to power in the same way that all human beings have reacted to power since the beginning of time? Right. Other than like Jesus, I don't like human beings by nature. We have vengeful, sinful little hearts that just, want what we want. And that's not meant to be a cut on human beings. I think it's just nature. We want other people's stuff and we want all the things for ourselves, and we're selfish and self-centered, and we have to be socialized to actually care about one another. I don't think that's actually like the fact that we have society at all, and that there are countries that by and large function well, where everybody isn't just taking other people's stuff and running steamrolling over each other and doing whatever. That's the miracle. That is the miracle, that human beings have been able to get out of their own way enough to have reasonably functioning societies. And I think as long as people understand that that is just human nature, and it's okay, it doesn't make us bad, it doesn't make us evil, it just means that we have to mitigate for that when we do things like have a political system that everyone is required to live by.
Right. What do you think of Andrew Yang's Forward Party?
What do I think about what?
Andrew Yang Forward Party.
Okay, so I heard, what do I think about Andrew Yang's something party? So it must be, there's a name for it. I don't know. I
Forward
would
Party?
not. I'm sorry, Byron, try that again.
The Forward Party by Andrew.
Forward Party. Okay. I am not familiar with that party, but from what I understand of Andrew Yang's politics, I probably wouldn't think much of it.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. He is Andrew Yang is one of those folks that I feel like kind of doesn't take human nature into account when considering policies. Okay. I think he's got, from what I've heard of him, I think he's got a good heart, and I think he has good intentions. I just don't think I don't think his ideas will work in real life.
Okay.
Actually, I'm really curious. I know when he was running for president, they tried testing out that UBI thing, and they picked like 5 people to do the universal basic income to try it out during the campaign. Do you know how that turned out?
From my experience, I know it helped out, for those people who tested out. Also, they've been doing it in Alaska for a very long time, and they also been trying it out in LA, somewhere in LA, California. But still, for $1,000 is $500 a month. For people who sign up, and so
I am made of questions right now. I'm very curious how that is going.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mentioned by other economists about I think MLK, Martin Luther King, asked about something similar, just like an annual income for families specifically, because Andrew Yang wants to do it for everybody, not just not just poor people, but rich people too. My thing is it could work. I think rich people should get it because they got, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gonna get somebody that has $1 billion? You know what I'm saying? And I think it should be. I think he does want to do 18 till the day that you die. So that's another thing that's considered.
Now his thing though is that if we do that, we get rid of. Oh, sorry. Now his thing is if we do universal basic income, we then get rid of all the other welfare programs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because
that
that's the
is
thing.
true.
I'm like, so we have all the social welfare programs like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, disability, and then universal basic income on top of it. I don't know how we pay for that, but that is the
right.
perennial question. How do we pay for it?
I know for real.
Yes.
How
Yes.
you pay for it.
Yep, exactly.
Also,
Well,
like I
and that's
think
why
it should be.
go ahead.
Oh, also, I think it should be given for those who are working people, and when you have to think about the elderly, like they're at what, maybe they're 65. I understand they're not working anymore. Then you can give it to them,
Yeah.
but also like give $1,000 for people that are working. Now, if you're not working, you can't get that. But you got like a job, then all right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and I think we could do a lot more for the elderly folks, for the senior folks in our communities. You know, I'll give you an example, Byron. Here in Burlington, where I live, they just did a reassessment on everybody's houses on all the properties last year. So basically, they said, "Oh, your houses aren't actually valued at what the market rate says they're valued at. So we're going to do a reassessment, but we swear it's going to be revenue neutral." So what that means is they said our property taxes were not going to go up. And I can tell you right now, I know that the government are a bunch of liars. So we knew our
Yeah.
property taxes were going to go up when they reassessed. Ours went up $4,000. Okay. Now, not only did ours go up
Wow.
$4,000, but yeah, exactly. And we live in one of the older neighborhoods in Burlington. So we live in what's called the New North End. And this neighborhood was built back in the 60s when there was it was the baby boom. Everybody was coming back from war. Vermont had a lot of troops over in World War II. We had IBM here, which was a semiconductor plant. So that was actually a really big deal, right? So we had this huge boom in this area. And this whole neighborhood, this whole section of town was built up. So a huge proportion of my neighbors are people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, older folks. In fact, I bought my grandparents' house. So the house we live in was the house my mom grew up in. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to afford it because this place
Right.
is out of control expensive. Anyway, so all my neighbors, all of them are on fixed incomes. All of them are on pensions, Social Security, whatever it is. And talking to one of my neighbors, he literally said, "I'm going to have to buy less groceries." He's like, "I don't know what to do. I can't
Right.
stay in my house if with like this." And so one of the things that I've heard suggested, which I would love to see passed here in Vermont, is that particularly after a certain age, your property taxes are locked in. So that way, if I'm 65 and I'm retiring and I'm on a fixed income, I don't have to worry about my property taxes pricing me out of my home that I've worked my entire life for and paid off. And so I think that, rather than giving people money, right? Because that's not really what they need. They don't need more money. They need less expenses. They need the government to not think that it's entitled to their stuff. And so I think that we
Right.
should really look at, what ways can we actually take the burden off of elderly rather than levy more taxes against the middle class to give to them, which then raises the cost of living, which then makes it harder for them to live, and then they need more help to, you see what I'm saying? Like, let's look at what the root of the problem
Okay.
is rather than continuing to just put band-aids on the problem.
Okay.
That's how I think about it.
Also, um, okay. Um, also, I understand like the Black Americans are very as a very interesting voting bloc when it comes to voting Democrat or
Yes.
Republican. Like how are they or libertarians, being Or y'all that's talking to Black Americans about going libertarian? Like, what's the conversation around Black Americans?
And that is a really great question, Byron. Have you seen the book my husband Benjamin and I wrote, Reasons to Trust the Government?
No.
Have you seen that advertised on our social media? Okay. So Benjamin and I have a book. It's called Reasons to Trust the Government. It's $9.99 on Amazon.com. And it is the front cover. You'll see it looks like an animal mount on the wall, right? Like if somebody shot a deer or something and they put the mount on the wall. That's what it's meant to look like or resemble. And one half of the face is an elephant and one half is a donkey. So it's the Republican Democrat symbols. And this is, when I was talking earlier about the Uniparty, it was actually, it was the idea for the book came when the lockdown started a couple years ago. And Benjamin and I were talking and I said, I can't believe that people are just allowing the government to shut down their businesses, allowing the government to mandate masks on themselves and children and all this stuff, all this crazy stuff. I just could not believe the government overreach and how people were just going along with it. And I turned to my husband and I said, we were talking, I said, I don't understand how people trust the government. I don't understand why anybody trusts the government. And then I looked at him and I said, because my husband's Black, I said, Benjamin, how do any Black people trust the government? And he just looked at me and I said, think about it. Every bad. What's that?
I said, I didn't know your husband's Black.
Yes, Benjamin's Black. So I looked at him. I said, why do any Black people trust the government? And he was like, what do you mean? I said, every single bad thing that has ever happened, well, not every single individual thing, but I said, all the bad stuff in this country related to Black people was government sanctioned, whether it was slavery, redlining, Jim Crow laws, the Tuskegee experiments, like fill in the blank. If you look through history, the attacks on Black Americans have been primarily sanctioned by the government. I said, I do not understand why Black people would ever trust the government given this stuff. And so, and he just was like, you're right, Erica. That's a really good point. That's why, we care so much, why there's so many people who, what is it? The NAAGA, National African American Gun Owners Association or something like that. There's all these organizations of Black people specifically coming together in defense of one another, making sure that they're armed and that they know how to take care of it. All of these community organizations, nonprofits and charities who are like, we're not waiting for the government to come rescue us. We need to rescue us. Here's how we're doing it. This is what it looks like. And I'm like, yeah, this is what all communities need to be doing, whether it's Black people, Hispanic folks, racial minorities, at whatever group of people that feel like they're not being heard or taken care of. Like, we just have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of our own communities, because the government, either in trying to be helpful, ends up just hurting us in the end, or they are malicious to begin with. And so, again, the Libertarian Party is so much about free will, personal responsibility, individual liberty, maximum human flourishing, small government. And I think that actually really resonates with at least the Black people that I know, because most of the folks that I know, they just want to be left alone to be as successful as they want to be. They're like, I don't want your handouts. I don't want your help. I don't want you to tell me that I'm a victim and I'm never going to make it because of the color of my skin. I want you, the government, to get out of my way so that I can be successful, have a business, be entrepreneurial, and do whatever it takes. I mean, Byron, this is crazy. And this is in Texas. Okay. So this is a place that is typically seen as, very freedom oriented. You have to have in order to do braiding, right? Hair braiding, which is primarily Black people. Like that's a thing Black people do. That is the market, right? You have to have something, I think it's like an esthetician's license to braid hair. Why? That's crazy. That is absolutely insane. There is no reason you should
Yeah.
have to be certified to braid hair. So that is a thing specifically that just a small example of something that I know directly affects Black people and pretty much only Black people. And it's like, that's just some stupid rule from the government. Some bureaucrat wants to make more money off of people. So how about you just eliminate all these stupid rules and eliminate the barriers to entrepreneurship so that people don't have to ask permission for a job or a paycheck or whatever. That's how I feel about it.
There's a
And
lot of barrier to entrepreneurship. That's weird.
yes. Yes. Well, I wonder what is the environment like in Georgia? Is it very business friendly, or is there also like a lot of rules and regulations?
Georgia is going through something, like, because where I lived in Georgia has always been a red state.
Okay.
So now when it flew, I was very concerned. You know what I'm saying? Even though we still have Republican a governor.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, and we have this lady wants to be our, governor, and she's a Black woman.
Stacey Abrams.
Symbolic. Yeah, Stacey Abrams.
Yep.
Very symbolic. I saw a lot of interviews. I'm very turned off because, like, about her, like, even though she feel like she can get the Black vote, but she can't really talk specific anything for Black people. She feel like if we just owe her the vote because she's a Black woman, and I'm like, bruh, like,
yeah,
nah.
your skin color is the only qualifying credential.
Yeah, it's like, no.
Yeah,
our vote is a business transaction.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams is one of those characters that I've always been very confused by. Okay. So I learned, my sister is an educator. One of my older sisters teaches public school. And I remember, this was years ago. I mean, a really, really long, like at least a decade ago. I remember talking to her about what she was going through at school, because she worked at a very low income school. And Vermont is very white, for the record, Byron. Vermont is very, very, very white. It's like 98% white. So a lot of these stories don't relate to people's skin color or anything. It's really just about economics, money, right? So she was in a very poor district. And, the families do not prioritize education. They don't make it important. And so she was really struggling with how to help these kids once they got to high school and didn't even have an 8th grade reading level. How do I teach them high school chemistry when they can't even, they can barely read an 8th grade English book? And we were talking, and she said, people rise and fall to the level of expectation. And this is a psychological phenomenon that educators have known forever, that psychologists have known forever, that people, if you have an expectation that they be successful, that they win, that they crush it, they're going to be successful, win, and they're going to crush it. They're going to work hard. If they have people in their lives who believe in them and are encouraging and lifting them up, they're going to rise to the occasion, and they're going to meet that expectation. And over the last few years, it's been very disturbing to me to hear the continued rhetoric that Black people are just victims, that they can't make it, that this country is systemically racist and they're never going to have anything because of the color of their skin. And then on and on and on. And when I hear people talk like that, and to me, Stacey Abrams is one of those people who talks like that, is I hear those people saying that my husband is weak, that he is weak-willed, he is dim-witted, and that he lacks the capacity to overcome hardship. And I don't know about where you come from, Byron, but those are words that we're going to step outside to resolve. Okay. If you're going to talk like that about my family and my friends and the people I love and care about, that they can't make it be somehow, first of all, you're insulting them and calling them weak. And then you're insulting everyone else around them who's not Black and saying that they're, that they're bad people, keeping people down, racist, whatever. And it's like, again, both of those things are reasons I would take you outside and fight you. Okay. You don't get to talk about my family and friends like that. What kind of sick mind believes that about their own culture and about their own family? I mean, that's just gross. And so I just really reject that. I really reject that kind of talk. I really reject that kind of notion. And Stacey, she's been running around saying she is the rightful governor of Georgia. And then she just keeps insulting people more and more and more. And then she wants to be elected. And I'm like, dude, you are failing. You don't realize that you've insulted everyone and told them that they're stupid or racist. And then you're demanding that they vote for you. Like, get out of here. Get out of here with that. And get out of here with any kind of talk that Black people are somehow inferior to white people, because that is absolute garbage and trash. And the evidence against that is the fact that Black people have been able to overcome so much in such a short period of time and really build their own community and culture and industries and all that other stuff. I mean, give me a break. Give me an absolute break. Does it mean that we're perfect? No. Does it mean that there's no room for improvement? No, obviously not. But to somehow say that Black people are not fully capable, just like every other race of human beings, I think is disgusting. And any candidate who says otherwise should absolutely be rejected.
Yeah. And furthermore, I sense that they're trying to turn Georgia into like another LA, California thing, which I don't want to live in. For real, I really think so. Like Eastern LA,
Mm-hmm.
And because we do have because we have the films are heavy over here now, especially in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's like, oh, y'all trying to turn this like a Eastern California, like,
yes.
I mean, I love LA, but I don't want to live there,
I can tell you right now, Byron, nobody wants to live there because it's gross. We were there. Let's see, Benjamin and I were there in 17 and 18, moved back to Vermont in the end of 18. And I mean, it is filthy and dirty and disgusting. You're stepping over people, defecating in the street. There are sick, drug addicted, mentally ill people, physically assaulting people on the streets. And this was before the pandemic. So this was before all the lockdowns and everything. This is recent history. The summer of 2018, we were without power for 4 days because the electrical grid could not handle the power needed. And so every decision that California has made California garbage. And then what happens is California is now garbage and overly expensive. So all the businesses have picked up and moved around the country to states like yours, like Georgia, where it's more advantageous, where it's more economically advantageous. And then they move and then they start voting for all the same stupid policies that they have in California, not realizing that they voted for the human feces on the street. Like, you asked for that. And now you're going to go to Georgia and ask for it again? No, Georgians absolutely need to step up and fight back against that
concept.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
Also, I don't understand it because I see a lot of people from blue states going to red states, and I'm like, I understand you want to move, but keep your little blue ideology to yourselves because apparently y'all made that state crap in the first place.
Yep. Yep, exactly. We've joked that Texas should close its borders to the rest of the country. Don't let anybody else move in. Maybe Georgia needs to do the same thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the section on your ballot about social media. I think.
Okay.
Hello?
Do you mean about Section 230, or do you mean talk about my show Generally Irritable?
Yeah. Section 230.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. This is something that I've seen people talk about a lot, and I personally have been very critical of our legislature for not doing something. As you might recall, Byron, a few years ago, we had, I believe, two chambers of the federal government. We had the Senate and we had the White House, and our Congress, they still couldn't get any movement on the social media problem. So you'll hear a lot of people, whether it's on the right or the left, Democrats and Republicans, say that we need to change or do away with Section 230. And both sides are wrong, and both sides have different reasons for why they're wrong. Okay, so Democrats want to get rid of Section 230 basically because they want to have complete control over the comments section and what's allowed on social media. And Republicans want to get rid of Section 230 because they think that we're then going to have a more open internet. And both of them are wrong. Both of them are absolutely wrong. So, well, and of course, because the Democrats want to shut down free speech. So they're wrong for that reason. And Republicans are wrong because they think that getting rid of Section 230 is going to fix things. But what Section 230 actually is, it's not related to social media. It is literally just a provision that allows any sort of internet or any sort of site to be on an internet provider's service, right? So the IP service. So that's like your Comcast. Oh my God, who does internet anymore? Comcast. Who do you have? Who provides your internet where you live?
Comcast.
Okay, so Comcast has a monopoly, but that's not new. So we've got these internet providers, and so like as an example, ericareddick.com or reddickforcongress.com are both. That's my website, right? That's my campaign website. Facebook is a website. QuickBooks Online is a website, right? I'm an accountant, so that's one of the softwares I use all the time. So Section 230 basically says anybody can have a website on this internet service provider, and the internet service provider is not responsible. So you could have, I don't know, say you have a website where you're selling illegal stuff. Well, actually, that doesn't. Well, no, scratch that last part. So basically, the whole idea of Section 230 is that it allows anybody to be on the internet, and the internet service provider is not allowed to make any changes, do anything, censor anything, or whatever. It's supposed to make it so it's a free and open platform or free and open utility, essentially, that everybody can use. So getting rid of Section 230 does not make Facebook stop censoring people. Getting rid of Section 230 does not make Instagram or Twitter stop banning people. It literally just allows activity on the internet and waives liability for the internet service provider. And so the way that people are talking about this really doesn't make sense, and it's not helpful. So if we want to address the fact that Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all these places that they can censor people, is we need to bring antitrust lawsuits against them. So when Amazon Web Services hosts 70%, okay, 70% of websites in this country, that is a monopoly, and that is a problem. And that's when, oh my God, I just lost the name of it. Not Getter, but what's the Oh my God, Parler. Parler was on Amazon Web Services, and they were removed from it. They lost their hosting. And so antitrust against Amazon. They are too big. We need to break them up. They absolutely should not control that much market share. Facebook owns Facebook, Instagram, and at least one other social media platform. They again have way too much market share. So we need to break it up so Facebook and Instagram are not owned by the same people. So what Congress can do, what the federal government, what state governments technically, what everybody can do is push towards antitrust lawsuits against these social media companies, these web services providers, the payment processors. So again, how does Visa get to say that a legal entity that is doing business that's not breaking the law cannot take a Visa credit card? Okay, you can't do that. You own too much market share, Visa. So that's really where we need to go. People are distracting everybody. This is when I say, Byron, sometimes this is why I'm a small government conservative, because again, both sides are lying about this. Both sides are and maybe they don't know that they're lying, but both of them are presenting this situation in a way that's not accurate, and it's not doing the American people any good. So what we really need to do again is really push people to push antitrust in the federal government, and that's one of the things I'll do as Vermont's next congresswoman.
You hear me?
I heard that.
Okay. What else? And when it comes to I feel like as far as like getting the libertarians and getting like or they can really take over, you know, they definitely have to do some serious work when it comes to local government before they start taking big government.
Well, I think that's, with any kind of grassroots movement is, we're David fighting Goliath, right? And
Yeah.
and so how, I think the big thing is just getting the word out, getting the party name out, helping people understand what the party is. Because I've gotten a lot of questions. A lot of people are like, "Oh my God, Erica, how can you be on the libertarian ballot? They're for open borders." And I'm like, "I'm not for open borders. I have a nephew that works border patrol in South Texas. I can tell you, I'm not for that." Okay, what is happening on our southern border is an absolute travesty of human suffering, and the Biden administration should be impeached because of it. That's my personal opinion. I think it's disgusting what they're doing to human beings on our southern border, encouraging them to come here and be trafficked by coyotes, raped, molested, assaulted. I think it's disgusting. And I totally lost my train of thought, Byron. Libertarian parties were David fighting Goliath. And so when there are forces behind things like open border, what's weird about the Libertarian Party? So, people are like, "Oh, you're for open borders. Libertarian Party's for open borders." No, I'm not. The Libertarian Party platform says no unnecessary infringements, basically, on free trade. So I think a robust national security is not unreasonable, for against an open market. So there's just a lot of misunderstanding, I think, about what libertarians stand for, because there's such a wide range of beliefs, and you can interpret a lot of the platform in the best possible or worst possible light that you want to. I said to my Olga, the chair of the Libertarian Party here in Vermont. I said,
Right.
I'm getting all these crazy questions. And I was like, and I can't find where this is in the platform. They're saying, that we need to get rid of, this and that, or do this. And I said, I can't find it anywhere. And she goes, because it doesn't say it anywhere. That's what people are interpreting from the words. That's not what we believe. And I'm like, okay. But this is what, it's going to have to be a grassroots movement of the people that take back control of their government. Until Americans remember that they are in control of their government and that they're responsible for their own self-governance, we're going to have weird stuff happen. And so that's my big goal, and my purpose is to help facilitate an engaged and informed electorate. I just want people to understand that they have power, that it is not hopeless, and that they need to shake off their apathy and get to work. Get help with a campaign, donate a couple hours of your time, donate a couple bucks, go volunteer to be a poll watcher or a poll worker. Do something, do anything, take some responsibility for your governance, and we'll be amazed what kind of shift will happen in this country.
Oh yeah. Also, just one more question. The U.S. economy lost 16 trillion because nation like Americans. What's your point of view on that? That apparently the United States is like losing $16 trillion because discrimination of Black Americans.
How?
Huh? They said this is nation from the banks.
Okay, but I don't understand. Like, I don't know how to have an opinion on something. What does that mean? Are they saying that people aren't buying goods and services? I need more information about that statistic to have an opinion on it.
Hold on.
I mean, obviously that's not good. If that is an accurate number, I just
Right.
I don't understand. $16 trillion with a T is more than the United States GDP. So I want to know, how is it that discrimination against Black people is creating a deficit in our GDP, or in income, that is larger than the country's GDP altogether?
Right. That's how I was like, wow. I had to research that and like, yep. I was like, wow. And then 16 trillion. I was like, dude, like,
if you can find that and send it to me. Yeah, if you can find that and send it to me, I'm very curious where they're getting that number from. Because if you actually look statistically, now this was pre-pandemic, but statistically, if you took all Black Americans out of the country and made them into their own country, it would be something like the 17th largest economy in the world. So,
right.
I'm, now when you factor in inner cities and the devastation in a lot of our urban areas where there is a lot of poverty, even with including all of that, it's still in the top 20 largest economies in the world, Black Americans. So I would really like to see that research and how they came up with that number.
Yeah, it said Citigroup estimates the U.S. economy lost 16 trillion over the past years as a result of discrimination against
20 years.
Black Americans. Above the American flag hangs in front of New York Stock Exchange. This was in 2020. Yeah, and this is NPR.
Okay, 20 years makes a little bit more sense, but is there any explanation for what that means?
Yeah, it goes in depth since 2000 U.S. Gross. I can see you the entire article.
Yeah, shoot me a link. And this is, this is one of the things. This is why, particularly, Benjamin and I, when we're making shopping decisions, when we are looking for service providers and opportunities, we really do try to give money to people in our community first. Whether it's women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, because we feel, and local, we try to buy local as much as possible because we feel responsible for building up our own community. And so I think that is really important. And we push for that. I mean, we both support with our time as well, volunteering for organizations, whether it's as mentors or, like I have, I have a bookkeeping practice. I'm an accountant by trade. And so I donate my time to organizations that need bookkeeping but can't afford it. He donates videography and editing production time to organizations that need it, and to really build people up. Because I think that, one of the things that we've talked about a bunch is how a lot of times people do not support their own people. So I remember him telling me about his first business that he started. He couldn't get any of his friends and family to buy from him. And he was like, "You're already going to buy soap. Just buy it from me instead." And what he found was that people just were not willing to support their own friends and family. And that was a really weird thing. And I've experienced the same thing. So this is not I'm not saying that that's necessarily a Black thing or a white thing, but it is something where you see, as an example, Indian Americans, people from India, they stick together. There's a big community of Armenian Americans here in Vermont. So the Armenian Americans, they work together, they build each other's businesses, they buy from one another, they support each other first. And then that economic boom that they create by working together spills out into the rest of the community. And I think Americans have just been traditionally not as good at that. And so that's a lesson we can take from immigrant communities about how they work together to create their own prosperity. And definitely send me that article because I'm really curious. I'm very, very curious.
Yeah. But thank you for this interview. I've been trying to have this talk. You reached out.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be better at connections, and people can see us. And hopefully
we made it through
already,
though.
Right.
Yes.
Hopefully you can be Congress with your little libertarian pals and everything.
Yes.
And,
yes, I'll be there with the likes of Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. Rand Paul and Thomas Massey are both Republicans, but they're actually really libertarians. So we have many of them in our midst. You just don't know it.
Okay. Also, you're going to be with the truth. God bless your soul with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to be good. My big goal, Byron, and people, if they want to go to my website, reddickforcongress.com, REDIC for congress.com. My big goal is to restore accountability, transparency, and integrity to Washington. I want the government really to be for the people and by the people, not for themselves and by themselves. And I think that we'll be much better and see a lot more prosperity across this country if we can just get the government to stop putting its filthy little hands in your pockets and taking your hard-earned labor. So that's my goal. I appreciate it, Byron.
Yeah. But I thank you guys, and until next time, guys, be amazing.
Yes, thank you.